All right, so the idea behind this We Are Shadows EP, it's covers of songs that we felt we could do justice, or songs that were kind of underappreciated, or songs that maybe not the average metal fan have heard. So the idea came very late one night from one of our good friends at Nuclear Blast Records. He said, maybe should do something like Metallica did with Garage Days, where you can just play songs that were influential to you when you started out, because we kind of grew up together here in Gothenburg, and in our mid-teens, we kind of started listening to the same kind of music, and that kind of course, informed what we eventually started out playing and writing and all that stuff. So, and some of those songs that we heard back around that time, kind of like maybe wasn't metal particularly, but still something that was in our heads, and this kind of Swedish melancholy that we really like, I think, informed us, even though we might not have been like the biggest Kent fans back when it wasn't cool to be a Kent fan. We were more metal, but we still loved those songs in it. But it's and it's the same with the band like Brother Daniel, which is like this. They were huge back in the day, and I just found them kind of strange, but at the same time I couldn't resist some of the songs that were just brilliant pop songs and rock songs. And it's the same with Kent. It maybe wasn't cool to be a fan if you're a metalhead, but that didn't matter, and we've always kind of been very open to other influence. And so when the idea came up, and like, what are the songs that were kind of in the back of our minds, or in our kind of collective kind of consciousness back then, these songs came out. And of course, like, so if You Were Here by Kent, for instance, is one of their biggest hits, and Kent it's a huge band in Sweden, but maybe nowhere else, maybe Finland and Norway, but that's kind of it. So it's kind of cool to play songs that are very iconic in Sweden, but maybe not elsewhere. So hopefully, people outside of Sweden will appreciate it. And the same with Brother Daniel, like Shoreline is their biggest hit, and was one of those songs that has been covered by many artists here in Sweden in very different ways. And I always loved the song, and so kind of putting our spin to it. And I remember Nicholas saying, like, I wanted to feel like a Halo Effect song, but I don't know how to do it. But I think he really pulled it off, and eventually we got there, and it's very cool to do something like that. And it's one of those staples, like when at a metal concert people scream, play faster, or they scream Slayer. Like in Sweden, people scream, play Shoreline, basically. So we figured, okay, let's play Shoreline. And that was fun too, like when we decided to do like a metal song, like Wasp of course came up, because back in mid 80s, like when Wasp was a thing, when they came out, and like the first couple of videos, this stirred up a lot of controversy and anger and fear in parents here in Scandinavia, and particularly in Sweden. And they had talks on like Late Show on TV, about like the destruction of morality, because of this horrible music that the kids of today are subjected to. And they really wanted to ban like all these horrible bands like Kiss and Mötley Crüe and Wasp, Wasp in particular, because they figured like this is satanic, this is like demoralizing and so offensive that it's beyond kind of like belief, like how someone can listen to this music. And of course that made every single person of the right age who watched those TV shows and heard about this instant metal fans, because it was the coolest thing you could ever see. So that's how it started, like for pretty much everyone at my age at the time. They like realized that Wasp is probably the coolest thing in the world, and we have to become fans. And that's how it started. And this was like in 82, 3, 4, something like that. And so I Want to Be Somebody is just like that classic song that we kind of grew up with, and doing like a full-on death metal version of it was a lot of fun, like just enormous amounts of fun. I absolutely loved it. And then also like Nicholas came up with the idea of doing like a Phenomena song, and the first Phenomena album is like an all-time classic, very underappreciated. Of course, the band didn't do much at the time, and been defunct for many many years. But it's just a classic album full of super catchy songs and just amazing '80s production and all that stuff. And when we were in the studio recording some of the stuff for the second album, when we had a string section, and Nicholas just asked the violinist, kind of like, "Hey, can you play this part?" And you just play the beginning of Dance with the Devil, and she started playing it, and she was, of course, brilliant, and it just felt great, and that kind of sparked the idea of kind of maybe we could do that, because it has kind of like this very folky vibe, and kind of melancholy vibe, and also it's about the devil and stuff like that. So of course it's cool, and it kind of also worked well with like how kind of Jesper started out. Like he started out playing violin and kind of learned how to play from his dad, and so folk music's always been kind of in its DNA, and you can hear that on Early in Flames album and so on, and also of course the Halo Effect album. So it just made perfect sense. So yeah, it's a good, cool collection of songs. And then yeah, I chose How the Gods Kill by Danzig because that's a kind of song that I've been singing constantly since it came out. Huge influence on me overall, like as a singer, and kind of like simple, powerful songs that felt more metal than anything else at the time, even though it was kind of just basic kind of rock songs, but it was so kind of brooding and heavy and felt evil, and that was really enticing and kind of alluring to me when I started singing, when I was 17 or something like that. And incredible album, and so hopefully you guys dig our interpretations and our versions of these songs, because this is kind of what we grew up on, so to speak.